If your guitar solo still sounds sloppy, no matter how much you practice, you're not alone. I was the exact same way. Keep watching this video and I promise this will fix it. Like I said, it was the same thing for me. I spent years and years, with the exact same problem of sounding sloppy, especially when you get to high speeds. And I finally figured out what was actually causing it. And it wasn't that I wasn't practicing enough, and it wasn't because, I just didn't have what it takes, which I'm sure all of you have had that same thought here and there. It was something that I wasn't even thinking about, something that wasn't even in my realm of consciousness, really, and it changed everything for me. So today I'm going to first walk you through the two more obvious mistakes that are probably causing you to sound sloppy, and then the third non-obvious mistake that will completely transform your playing from sloppy to clean, even at high speed, especially at high speeds. So let's start with the most obvious one that's causing you to sound sloppy, and it's because of your right hand muting technique. So to demonstrate, we're going to take this lick from the little thing it's actually a lick directly ripped off of Michael Wagner, JTC guitarist. So the idea is this: when we're playing, especially a lick with bends and little articulations like this lick, we need to make sure that every single string is muted and silent aside from the target string, or in other words, the string we're playing. So the right hand takes care of muting the strings above the target string. So if I'm playing this first section here between the G and the B strings, and then descending down to the A string, my palm, some people use different parts of their palm. I'm mostly using this side right here and then up to here a little bit. And that portion of my palm is resting on the strings above the target string, okay? And that's what's muting it. If I didn't have that already, especially with that bend, when you do a bend and release, it grabs the strings here and then causes noise. So this needs to be here the whole time. Biggest mistake I see is people, when they pick, their hand comes off a little bit. So you want to work on that relaxed picking, but keeping this grounded. Okay, so a good way to practice this is just with a lick like this, that's fine. But, or you can just take this is the way that I started practicing, is take a pentatonic scale and descend. So just take a pentatonic scale and work on descending. And as you descend, your palm is resting on the strings above the target string to mute those. Okay, so now that we know how to mute the strings above the target string with the right hand, now we have to mute the strings below the target string, and that happens with the left hand. So anytime I press down with my pointer finger, the underside of my pointer finger should be just flat enough to be laying across the strings underneath it, specifically the string directly adjacent underneath it. And that's going to mute any excess noise you get from the strings underneath it. Sometimes I have the other fingers doing that as well, but mostly it's the pointer finger. The pointer finger actually does a second bit of muting, which sort of mitigates what this hand misses. So the tip of my pointer finger is almost perpetually touching the string above it, directly adjacent, directly above it. So if I'm on the B string, the tip of my finger is just barely touching the G string. Just in case this doesn't quite get it, this finger is there to save the day, essentially. So for example, even on this first exchange when I get from this bend with my ring finger to this pointer finger note, my pointer finger is barely touching the G string, which was just being bent. And that's really important because if I don't do that, I can get that excess noise from that G string. So to recap, the right hand with some portion of your palm, I use this portion, mutes the strings above the target string, and the pointer finger, laying just flat enough, mutes the strings below the target string. But the bonus is that the tip of the pointer finger is also muting the string directly above it. Now let's get to the last and final one. This is something that nobody talks about, and honestly the reason why most guitarists never fully sound clean. Not most guitarists, but a lot of guitarists can never just sound clean. Even if they know how to mute with their right and even if they know how to mute with their left, it's because they're not practicing muting effectively. They're just running and gunning it and throwing up a prayer, hoping it works, just hoping that their general knowledge of muting saves them, and that's not how it works. You have to specifically sit down and go, for the next X amount of minutes, I am practicing muting technique. And then even further than that, I'm specifically practicing right hand muting technique. Then transfer your attention. I'm specifically practicing left hand muting technique. And then even further, you want to practice this one string at a time or two strings at a time. So just to show you how you would systematically do this, we're going to start with the first few notes that take place on the G and the B string back to the G string. And as you can see here on this app that I developed, I specifically have a section in your practice where you either type in or select a point of focus. So for me, I'm gonna select right hand muting. That's what I'm gonna focus on. I'm not gonna worry too much about the left hand right now. I'm gonna focus specifically right hand muting. If I'm having trouble with my hand coming off the strings too often, that's what I'm gonna focus on. I'm going to set a timer and I'm gonna focus on just the notes on these two strings. I'm just going to focus on that until the timer rings. We get too distracted way too often. We do it like one time, and then we're like, oh yeah, I'm going to try the whole thing. I got it. And I got it because I practiced it. But the point is you can't get too ahead of yourself. You have to hyper-focus on very detailed sections and hyper-focus on the specific muting technique you're working on. You have to. Like, you're gonna just spin your wheels, you're gonna hit your head against the wall, and you're gonna go nowhere. So you set the timer. Then the last part of this is you have to set the metronome at a speed at which the muting starts to fall apart. Like, let's say you can do the muting on these first two strings, with the right hand fairly well, like, right? You up the metronome slowly until it just starts to fall apart. That's where you need to start working on your muting just on these two strings. Set your timer and then go. So until the timer rings, I'm hyper focusing on just this, right? And the idea is that when I go from the G string to the B and then back to the G, when I go back to that G string, I want to like back off my muting with my palm just enough so I'm not covering the G. So I'm going from the G to the B and I'm sort of like just getting onto that G as I go to the B, and then as I go back, this is a very subtle movement. It's almost like not even noticeable, but you have to practice just this. So I turn on my metronome. You might just start with that. Can I mute just on that? Okay, and you're doing that until the timer rings. And then as you descend in the sequence, you're gonna add one string at a time and you're gonna practice as you descend. Your right hand here is slowly just moving off the strings as the target string changes in the descension. And that's how you gotta practice your right hand muting. With your left hand muting, it's the same exact process. You start with two strings and you hyper focus on this left pointer finger staying just flat enough. And the hardest part is the tip of the finger touching the adjacent string every time you press down with it. Honestly, just doing that is a really good way to practice going from the bend and then touching down with this finger and making sure the tip of this finger is touching the adjacent string. So it's a lot of details. It's the right hand. It's making sure the right hand rolls onto the strings as you're ascending and rolls off the strings as you're descending. Like, it's a very like detailed sweet spot. I would call it a sweet spot of muting. And then your left hand has the underside of the finger muting and the tip of the finger muting the adjacent string above. You can see how with all these details, how it's going to be much more effective to focus on them one at a time. Spreading your attention thin, getting distracted, and adding too much, that is the bane of your existence. Keep doing that, and I promise you won't sound clean and you won't progress. But if you focus on one thing at a time, set a timer, write down like I do in my app, where you write down what you're focusing on and you're working on that until the timer rings with the metronome right at the edge of your ability. Now that's effective practice, and that's going to get you to dial in your muting technique, especially at high speeds. If you want to learn more licks like that pentatonic sweep thing, like I did at the beginning part, then go ahead and click this video right here, and I break down exactly that Eric Johnson style of picking so you can start floating through your pentatonics. So is floating the right word? I don't know. Click this video right here if you want to learn that sort of thing.